Hi. So we are going to continue work here on the power steering pump. And the one thing I do want to say is I did work on it just a little bit here as soon as I got to the garage, just so I can kind of figure stuff out. As we got the mount started, air quote, started, just so I can kind of roundabout see where it is I need to like weld the bit in, or the mount on. The one thing I did notice, however, is that that mount actually has a curve in it, so it's kind of throwing off the geometry of everything because it's not exactly square. What I mean by that is this is not on the same square plane as this. This is actually bowed in a little bit. What that's actually doing is, since I have a piece of angle iron on there and it needs to line up with whatever the edge is there, it's actually kicking it out this way, so there's a lot more space between what it is that I wanted to weld it to. So I can show you real quick where it is we're actually going to be welding to. So I had marked just about here, where I had it like laid up and wanted to weld it. However, it was kind of like kicked out towards you guys, with this being the door that runs here, obviously this being the tire here. It kind of kicked out this way, which I didn't really like. So with it sitting completely flat, it puts the bar like right about here. You can kind of see if I just hold it in place square without having any part of the pump touch the body, you can see kind of around where that lands, which is basically right in here. So I might have to like make up some type of other bracket to triangulate it, just so I can tack it up here. So what we're gonna end up doing is, it's gonna look like this, and then we're gonna have another piece that's gonna come up to here, and that'll triangulate this whole thing there for me, which should make this a lot easier. So let's get it cutting, and let's get a tacking and welding and tacking and welding and welding and tacking and tacking and welding. It is 110% going to cause an issue. So we'll just recut that later. Figure that part out. We'll just do all the reinforcement behind that bolt. And we're going to do 2 1/4. So I have roughly cut out the piece that we need, and that's just gonna nestle in right here. In addition to that, also grab some hose. Apparently it's 5/8 to go in here. The only thing is, I don't think it's gonna be able to make that bend coming off of here, because that is quite the bend to make, and it's gonna be real tight, but it might actually be able to do it. I don't know, we gotta see. I gotta first try and fish this through there, but I think I'm gonna do that after I do all the welding, because I don't want to melt the hose that I just got. That feels sturdy. All right, let's remove the support and see what we got. So that's how we're sitting without the support. As you can see, it is in fact a problem. And that is the part that has the bolt sticking out. So we're definitely gonna have to cut that off and see how we fare from there. Actually, believe it or not, this whole thing doesn't even fit in here. It just barely doesn't fit. So we're going to make it fit. All right, so it's been a while. Technically a couple days, but granted I haven't been working on this for a couple days. That being said, I did get the hose we need to run to the feed. Well, not the feed, but the remote reservoir. It is 5/8. I did redesign the mounts just a little bit, and I went ahead and I welded one of the pieces up. Not my best weld, but hey, it is what it is. And essentially, the other thing that I did is I took this mount here, I cut it up, changed the angle on that, because if you remember, it came straight out and it was like sitting out here. So we went ahead, we chopped that off, we laid it inward so that I could have it mounted like this from the top. Now it's gonna sit like that, and instead of having a bar coming out, there's gonna be a bar coming down from this frame rail here, like that, instead of going across and holding it there. So the stresses are a lot easier on my welds, which aren't probably gonna be the best to begin with. But the good thing is this isn't gonna be torquing a lot. It's just, honestly, it just needs to hold the weight here and keep it there. On the second mount, it's gonna just weld there, and this part bolts on there, and it'll hold it up like that. So everything will be suspended the way that it is, not touching here at all. Wire goes through there, comes out through the engine bay. It's gonna follow the same path as the O2 sensor around the back, straight to the battery. That's gonna make wiring a lot easier. The only thing that we're gonna have to maybe run into the car is going to be the key on or the ignition. Let's go ahead and actually get this mounted up, because we do need to do just a little bit of welding here, because we need to weld the one mount here and then the other one right there. I'm gonna tack them in place just to get them right. Then we're gonna pull this. We're gonna weld that one in first, and then we'll weld this one on and make my life a little bit easier. So I am done using the metal hot glue gun. We do have a hole here. That's the only hole that we have though, luckily. The underside was a massive pain. I just finished that, so I'm not gonna touch it. But I think there were still a lot of contaminants there. I didn't clean a big enough spot. But that's also in there. It's no longer tacked. It's sturdy. So we are officially fully mounted up. Now we just gotta do the wiring, which is super easy. And then we got to do the plumbing. The plumbing, we got to jack the car up because we got to get to the rack. Now, there are 3 fittings that we have here that we're going to be using. We got the rack in. I think that's the rack in. Not entirely sure. And then we got the rack out. Or this might be the rack in, that's the rack out. I'm basing that based off the O-ring. I don't actually know if that's the case. And of course we also have the 3rd fitting on there, which is the pump out. Now, like I said in a previous video, we are going to be just doing a regular rubber hose back into the pump, so we don't actually have an AN line that we're going to be plumbing into that. And we're coming off of the rack to a 3/8 barb is what we're going to be using to go back into the pump for our return. So
Four to 6 days later.
All right, so recap time. We have an issue with the mount, and that's because it's directly in line with the tire and actually kind of contacts it in one part. So with any type of suspension travel, it can actually possibly end up hitting the mount. The good thing, however, is it seems like it's only about 2 inches of space that we have between the tire and the mount itself, or one of the lines for us to play with, which just so happens to be the exact amount we can shift the whole unit back by, which is roughly about 2 inches. So we're going to cut off just the mounting point off of that one bracket, and we're going to shift that forward about 2 inches. That way we can shift the whole unit back. And in addition to that, we're also going to have to either cut and weld in extra angle or cut off the angle iron that's already on there and shift it back as well. Which, I mean, honestly, either or. I would prefer to cut the angle iron because it's going to be easier to weld the angle iron to itself. So we're going to do that, and we'll see how it all turns out. So people have issues with 10 mils. I have issues with 3/8 extensions. They're always fucking missing. Like pretty much always. That's there. And, ow! Fuck, that's hot. I knew it. I knew it was hot. I still did it. Ow. Now, it's time for the moment of truth. Does this guy clear the tire? Hey, come on. Ha! It does not. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Oh, shit, this is not in the right spot. There you go. It does, look at that. Clears it entirely. And we can just mount the hoses to the back there, and it'll literally never touch it. Unless for some reason, ball joint goes in this. But if the ball joint goes on this wheel, we got bigger problems. We will clean this up here in a little bit, but I'm primarily focused on the functionality of this right now. All right, that is definitely a lot more malleable. I'd have to widen this hole a little bit just so it can go in with less issue. Have it be like this. I don't know. But I do know we need to make the hoses. So let's go ahead and get to that. But first, let's do the wiring, since that's going to be relatively easy. Now, this guy here is our ground, and then we got our positive. At least I'm assuming that's going to be that way. I should actually probably test that. But with that being said, we're going to be running this through that second hole that's on the fender there. Now, as I said before, you don't need to run a relay for this because it has its own internal relay. However, you do want to run some type of inline fuse, of which I presently don't have, so we do need to go and grab one of those real quick. But we're going to be running our 8 gauge wire. Now 8 gauge wire should be good for around 600 watts. Now peak, this can pull a little over that. However, that's not continuous. So 8 gauge should be fine for what we need to run. And we're just gonna run those wires along the back of the engine, right where we ran the wires for the wideband as well as the vacuum lines for the map sensor on the ECU. That will pretty much take care of that. We'll hook it straight up to the battery. And then in addition, we have our blue wire here, which we are going to run to our ignition. In that same path, have it go in the cabin. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Alright, and just see full lock because it's really hard to turn this thing on the ground. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this guy up. Ooh, it does skim past it. At full lock, it skims past it. We might have to go with a different adapter. I'm pretty sure I can just buy a 6AN90 and put a straight on here for now. Kind of like what I have up top for the fuel rail. Basically just like this guy here, that's going to extremely reduce that angle. As you can see, it's basically just the thickness of the hose itself coming out. So it basically takes this and cuts it down to 1/3 of its total depth. With that being said, let's go ahead, pull the wheel off, and we can start installing these lines. So the top one, the green one, is return. The bottom one, the brown or regular steel colored one, is the feed. So these are going to be our high pressure. That's going to be our low pressure. It's 17. About this one, also 17. Ow! Thank God it's not cold, because that I'd be dead right now. That actually would have took me out. Holy hell. Alright, so once more. Return. Feed. I just gotta manage to somehow unscrew the screw that's down here holding in these lines. Come on. It's covered in oil. You should be able to come off. Also, impact won't work because this is like... well, that's gone. Okay. I knew it was going to start leaking. I don't know how the hell to get this out of here. Alright, well, we'll take that out here in a second. These fittings are from Chase Base. I will link them down below. These are the fittings for the 180SX, which I think has the exact same thread pitch and everything here, so we shouldn't have, nope, no issue putting this in. And I just have tape over the holes here. These are now snugged up and in their forever home, so let's go ahead and peel these things off.
Got our fittings on. Let me go ahead and put the other fittings on and we can measure these things up. So we have PTFE for the bottom, and then a push lock for the top. The reason we have these differences is because we have those two different hoses that we're running together. Now the push lock I can leave on here, we're going to have to take the PTFE hose off. So you can see these are going to come out at different angles, which is fine for me. I don't need them at the same angle. So actually, I'll probably take the 90 that I have up here and put this down here. So I guess I will have them at the same angle. So I had originally got this 45 because I thought this was going to work better based off the angle I was going to do before. Since we had a fundamental change in where the pump is mounted now, I actually kind of do want these to come straight out. So now they're going to come out and they're going to run along here, back under, and up to the pump. Super simple, super easy. The way we're going to run this PTFE line, we have this sharp 90. Apparently I did have, so we'll be able to get past that wheel. This compared to the other 90, you can see it is quite a bit more shallow than the other one. So this should make up the difference that we need. And we're going to do a straight right off of this guy for the PTFE line. And I don't actually have any straights, so we're going to use that 45 that we had down below here. And hopefully this doesn't cause us any issues. Alright, this PTFE line is going to be a little harder to run, but that is fine. And then to that point, so I'm going to cut it a little long, but it looks like we're going to be right about here, so let me grab some tape. And we will cut on the outside of this line. Now it's time to make some hoses. Now here's a quick and dirty tutorial if you actually don't know how to make AN lines. It's super easy. There are multiple different types of hoses. However, the two flavors we're going to be using today are PTFE and then the CPE. The CPE is just a special type of rubber. The PTFE, however, is going to be a plastic lined, stainless steel braided, and then nylon wrapped, preferably, hose. You do need special fittings for these guys that we're going to be using, but they're extremely easy to make. One thing I would suggest is to go ahead and get yourself a nice pair of shears, nice sharp pair of shears. You can use angle grinders to cut these because this wire in here is stainless steel, so you're not going to be cutting it with anything other than something that's meant to be cutting metal. These shears here are some wiring shears that I have. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to cut these kind of around where I want to be. A good thing to do is to grab a kit off of Amazon, and I recommend that mainly because a lot of the times they will come with everything you would need in order to make the hoses. So you can see we got a nice clean cut there. We do have a little bit of nylon hanging out, but overall we do have a pretty nice clean cut. And in order to make this circular again, we have this tool here, which came with the kit that I had bought before. Essentially, we're just going to stick it in here, spin it around, and I'm going to squeeze it, and it should make a more round hole again. Now, before we go ahead and start putting stuff together, it's really important to get your orientation right. You can start with something relatively ambiguous on the first fitting, but when it comes time to do the second fitting, if they are angled fittings, mark your fittings, because there's nothing worse than putting the fitting together or putting the whole hose together and then it doesn't line up to where you need it. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and open up our vise, and I'll get you guys a better view for this part. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and throw our soft jaws in our vise. Mine are made of nylon. Honestly, I recommend aluminum ones. They're going to do a lot better. You can see this one's already kind of rounding off. But once we do that, we have three pieces of our fitting here. We have this outer ring, the olive in the center, and then the regular part of the fitting. So what we're going to do is we want to put this guy on, especially if you've already got the hose and everything made. We're going to fray out the hose on the outside. We're going to take something like a pick and push out the lining away from the plastic part of the hose. And then we're going to go ahead and insert this guy in there. It's usually helpful to bash it on the table just to get it all the way down and seated flat. But once you do that, put the straight part into the hose, and then it's as easy as assembly and screwing that back together. Not hard whatsoever. The only thing is putting it in the vise, because once you get to a certain point, it is going to be hard. And people say to use some type of lubricant, and we're just going to fray this out a little bit. As it can, this part can be a little tricky sometimes, especially when you're actively trying to not stab yourself. And on the inside, unfortunately, lighting over here is terrible. You would be able to see it is completely flush all around. I might have gone a little too hard in the paint, and it has squeezed the liner into the hole, which this is able to fix really, really easily. All right, so now that that's all set, you can go ahead, throw this guy in the vise. Go ahead, stick this down in there. Like that. I'm just gonna put a little bit of WD-40 on the threads to make my life easier. Well, a lot of WD-40 on the threads. And this is just gonna start getting screwed in. I'm gonna go by hand for a second, and then we're gonna have to break out the wrench. All right, just like that, we have 1/3 of a hose. We just gotta do the same thing to the other side, but with the correct orientation. So let's go ahead and do that. So now that we have this whole thing lined up, I'm probably going to take a little bit off this hose, but had to take the collar off the fitting to slide the hose onto the fitting to see where it needs to sit. Now I have a piece of tape on the fitting, and all I'm going to do is mark the piece of tape on the fitting and the piece of tape on the hose. And I'm going to have to redo this over there anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this guy here and that one there. So I am also just now realizing that I have swivel fittings, so I don't have to align them. But if you don't have swivel fittings, you absolutely have to align them. So I'm just not going to worry about this piece of tape anymore because it's no longer necessary. Alrighty. And there we go. One PTFE and line. Now the reason why we have PTFE is because this has a much higher pressure resistance than the rubber hose. I am fully prepared to get actual hydraulic hoses. I just wanted to make this hose so I can take it in case it blows off. So let's go ahead and install this on the car. Rubber hose is going to be ultra easy. Alrighty. Now initially what I was thinking was doing something like this. Which actually works very, very well. Nowhere near the exhaust. All's good. These are the push lock fittings. You just push them on. And there you go. You can put a band clamp on there, but honestly, this is not getting pulled off. It's pretty much on there. But for security reasons, you can put a band clamp on there, and I am, because power steering fluid is quite flammable. And we're just going to be running this along this, so we want it to be roughly the same length, up to an extent of about here, I want to say. And cut this hose. There you go. And now these are ran next to each other. I just need to put this up in a way where it's holding them and they will be safe from the tire. But that's not hard at all, because that's what these are for. Now the one thing is like, these are just going to be to hold them together. It's not going to keep them in one place, because PTFE lines are a lot more narrow than the rubber hose. The PTFE just kind of slides around in here. So we can't really use it to hold them in place, but it is good to actually keep it in a particular area or hold it in one place. I don't know why I said can't use it to hold it in one place. It doesn't hold it straight, you know what I mean. And our mounting solution for these guys are going to be this. And this is simply a little piece of plastic that has some adhesive on the other side that we can put a zip tie through and zip tie these to the body. And actually, you know, this was going better in my head. Stick it down there. That shouldn't be going anywhere. Now we can take a zip tie. Oh, that's what that sound was. It coming unstuck. Lovely. Well, it's already failed, and that's because it's absolutely filthy. Which, I mean, I should have expected, but that's 100% going to come off. You know what? I'm just not going to zip tie the thing to it today. And we will zip tie it on a different day.
2 days later.
So we are going to go ahead and do this. So we want this like right here. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. Cool. This is securely in here, and that one's zip tied down. The other one we did is on the frame rail here. This one I used a self-tapping screw with, and then it just goes up to the rack. And we are fully hose managed, or wire managed, or whatever you want to consider this. It's managed though. So now that we have everything finally welded up, nice and strong, we can go ahead, take this off for the last time, remove our little reservoir here so we can get it nice and clean, because you can see it is quite dirty, and you also saw the color of the fluid coming out of there before. So I do want to go ahead and get this clean and clean out all the little bits in there. We may or may not have to make an O-ring. I'm not sure. We'll see. I do have the O-ring kit still for that. But then we'll go ahead, we'll put it back on, put it all together, put it back on, get it filled up, and test this thing out. So this is going to be our 60 amp breaker. You can see there. Now we do have a battery side and then the inside. So it says it right there, battery line. This one says aux load. So that means battery is going to be coming in on this side and load's going to be going out. So we're basically going to run it upside down. That way we have it lined up. Honestly, don't know where I want to put this. Probably going to put it here, which means we're going to run it this way. Now we got the positive hooked up to the terminals. Got the fuse in here. We got the negative hooked up as well. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to test to see if this is working. This is our signal wire right here. It's tangled up in everything. We've got our signal wire here. All I should have to do is touch this to the positive terminal when this is closed, and it should start the pump. We're going to close this and maybe not. That is unfortunate. I'm going to go ahead and check what our voltage is on the battery just to make sure we're good here.
3 weeks later.
So the solution to our problems have finally arrived. This is the power steering controller from Hang Tight. This is going to allow us to run our Mazda power steering pump because this only works with a CAN signal. It will not have a limp mode. If it does not have a CAN signal, it just straight up won't turn on. So that solution is a module that sends all the CAN signals to our power steering pump, and it also gives us a little bit of controllability for this guy in either allowing us to control the speed of the pump through a potentiometer, or like the normal cars work, either off of engine speed or wheel speed by sending a PWM signal to the controller, which then sends the signal to the pump. So this wiring is ultra easy. It's 12 volts, ground, the CAN bus, and then it has its own connector for the potentiometer or the control from your ECU, however you want to go about it. For this video, we're just going to be doing the potentiometer so that we can get this thing up and running and make sure it works. And at a later date, we'll go into the control for the ECU. Now, with all this being said, my ideal situation is to not have something like this, and that's to let the ECU run everything on its own. So at a later date, again, we're going to be investigating the signals and stuff that this sends out for our Mazda power steering pump. And then we're just going to build that into the Mega Squared ECU, since the Mega Squared ECU allows us to run any type of CAN network. Now, mounting for this thing will be temporary, as is pretty much everything on this build at this point in time. Temporary is becoming more and more permanent as time goes on. However, I want to put this where all the electronics are going to be behind the seats. So we will move this whenever we move our battery and our ECU and everything behind the seats. So in the meantime, I'm going to be running a length of wire that's going to be zip tied. It's going to be wrapped around itself and zip tied, just like with the ECU. That way I don't have to remake all the lines again, re-terminate them and everything, and I can just cut them, solder them together, and that'll be that. Speaking of control, these are the potentiometers that we're going to be using. They are 1000 ohm pots. These are exactly what we need in order to have our control today. The way that we're going to be doing this is we have to wire signal, ground, and 5 volts. And then honestly, I think I'm just going to wrap the wires and heat shrink everything together. I do want to design a little holder for this. Granted, there's probably something on Thingiverse for me to be able to 3D print and then we'll have like a more permanent option. This will always be overridden by any PWM signal, however. So say the car is on but not running, we can use the potentiometer to adjust the speed here. Once we turn the car on, the car will overtake it. And if we make any adjustments here, it'll change it until it gets another signal from the car. So it all depends on how frequently your car is outputting it, if the potentiometer will still continue to work. The other thing you can do is you can put a switch in line between that PWM signal and the controller itself. That way you can switch whenever you're going to be doing the potentiometer, or you're going to let the car take over. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the install and get this thing running. It's taking so long. Since I'm complicated, I want to have the twisted pairs still be twisted pairs. So we're going to set up the plug on the vise, like a clamp over here, and I'm going to use the drill to twist them to a certain point, and then I'm going to wrap them. We're going to see how well this works. Oh God, why did I make these so long? Okay, I guess I wanted a surplus of wire. I got a surplus of wire. I'm still going. I did like 15 feet. Why did I do so much? We got clamps and now I'm going to be over there apparently. This took so long. The good thing though is there's so much wire here that if I ever need to run another can line, I have it pre-made. And that's how I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna look at it as a positive note. I made extra because this took way too long. It took about 3 times as long as I thought it was gonna take. Done. All right, let's get this thing wired up. I'm actually just gonna put it in the car. So the way we're going to get into the cabin is through this grommet just under our master cylinder reservoir. It's legit like right in this corner. I'm gonna go ahead, take a pick, poke a little hole, because that should be more than enough for us to be able to put these through. And then I will wrap the end with electrical tape just before I pull it through, and I'm just gonna like kind of push it up against the edge. Hopefully that'll keep it watertight. Granted, with all the dust and stuff that's in this area, I don't think this sees much water, but it can, which is the issue. So hopefully that will hold. But we're going to come in there. We're gonna go just behind the little fuse box, run up here, and go right in there.
Got the wires here. See if I can pull this through now. Yep. Alrighty, there we go. Woo. Got the wires in the cabin. Oh dear Lord, I don't think we gotta worry about water coming in here at all. Now we just gotta pull this the rest of the way in, which is not gonna be easy. So I'm gonna fight with this for a minute. Crazy thing is, I think this was just about enough. This is going to be able to reach just to the other side of the car, and that is it. No further. Crazy. As you can see, this is all that I have left of the slack. So we're going to zip tie this, and we're going to call that a day. But it is officially in its home. There we go. So that takes care of this plug for the harness. Now we need to do this plug, which is just going to be 12 volt ground, the potentiometer signal, and as well as that you can also put the PWM signal here. I'm just going to leave it for now, and then we'll wire that in at a later date. Alright, so I have gotten most of the wiring done, but I want to show you guys real quick. So with this kit, you're going to get a couple of plugs, as well as pins, and this little securing tab doodly guy here. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take all the wires that we just got done wiring up, as well as 2 additional wires, one for 12 volt ignition, one for 12 volt ground. And then we are going to take them and put them in the corresponding pins and holes. So you can see here, this is the wiring diagram. It tells you what pins go where. And right now we're going to do the 3-pin connector. So we can see pin 1 is can high, pin 2 is can low, and then pin 3 is the 12 volt out for the switch signal for the pump itself. Now unfortunately I have no idea which one is high and which one is low, and I can't really find any diagrams on it, at least none that have the color codes on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on this guy here. So this here is the red LED that's on the back of the unit. And if it fast blinks, that means I'll have them wired backwards. So then we'll just go in and we will reverse them. But for now, all we got to do is we need to follow that diagram as before, where it says position 1 is can high, 2 is can low, 3 is signal on. So following with that order, this one here that's separate from the twisted pair is going to go in position 3. And there are numbers on the back here that we can follow. So position 3 is this last one here. So I'm going to take this and push it in its hole. Now I'm using silicone wires here, so there's 0 integrity. So I have to use a pick to finish pushing it in. And basically I'm just going to push till I hear a click. There we go. And then I'm going to pull back on it a little bit. And I'm just going to follow through with that. So with can 1 being high, I wired the red to the red and the white to the white. I'm going to assume that red is high, white is low. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wire 1 in there and then 2 in here. So we're going to do this one first. I'm pretty sure this comes out. I never actually tried to pull it out. Yeah, it does come out. So pull this out just to make your life a little easier. And then push this pin up in there till I hear the click. There we go. And then just do the same thing for the red one here. And now I can just pull these guys back and push this up. All right. And now we're sealed back up. So from here, what we want to do is we're going to use this guy, and this will push everything into alignment, but I screwed it up and my 1 pin is way off. because I accidentally bent the back of it. So we're gonna pull this back out and I'm gonna fix that. Looks like it's partially just the wire. So I am gonna put this in and we're just gonna click it down. There we go. Now all the pins are in there and secure. I'm gonna pull this up and put it back. And just like that, we have a full connector. And then we have two. So now all I gotta do is plug this up, give it a test. If not, I'll redo all that, take a pair of pliers and pull this little orange pin out and swap those around. And once I get those swapped, we should be able to test this out. So at this time, I actually don't have like an antifuse or anything. I do have this one that I have for my mirror. However, it's not really hooked up to anything right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tap into this and we'll give it its own in the future. So all I'm gonna do is go ahead and slide this wire in here. And we'll do the same thing for this guy. And just use the pliers to press down. Now what we can do is we can check resistance just to make sure it has an actual good connection. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this over to function until I see ohms. And then I wanna see that number as low as possible. So right now, it looks like it's 0.6 ohms, which is great. That's very little to no resistance. So there we go, we got that put in there. Now I just gotta hook up the ground and we'll get this thing tested. We got everything plugged up. This is the LED that we're gonna be watching. We're gonna be looking for a fast blink. Plug that into there. And plug this guy in. There we go. Everything's plugged in. I'm gonna go hit the breaker for the power steering pump. Breaker for the power steering pump is on. Everything's plugged up. Now we just gotta turn the key, watch that LED, and listen. I will be holding this potentiometer. Blinking red. Actually don't know what blinking red means. So it says slow blink, no pump detected, which is weird. All right, so I'm going to turn this there. We're going to kill this. I'm going to double check the wiring to the pump. 0.6 ohms. As much as I wanted to end this video with this pump functioning, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's been multiple weeks since I last uploaded a video, all trying to get this to work, even though now. So before we pull this out and go grab another pump from the junkyard, I want to go ahead and swap those CAN wires around because it can't really hurt at this point. I mean, I doubt that's the issue because it does say it fast blinks whenever the CAN signals are swapped and it slow blinks whenever it cannot detect the pump. But at this point, it can't really hurt anything. So let's go ahead, swap those around and see if it fixes it. All right, so I have swapped the two lines. The red was on the outside, so now the black's on the outside, red's on the inside. I didn't even bother fighting with this while I was doing it because it was making it kind of a pain to do it in the first place. So let's go ahead, let's plug this back in and see what we got going on here. There you go. All right, we are good. Let's set that there. That's the LED we're looking at. It's the wrong set of keys. I'm gonna go ahead, reconnect the battery, hit the breaker. Breaker's on, battery's reconnected. And yeah. Oh! Oh shit! Oh! Oh yeah, shit, that's the... Okay, well. That was not a slow blink, hang tight. That was not a slow blink. Okay, cool. That's one less junkyard trip for me. Would like to say it's 110% not a slow blink or a fast blink.
So the manual says, and I'll put it up here on screen, fast blink for reverse can, slow blink for no signal. I don't know if it's just this particular pump that is no signal if it's backwards. That might be the case, and I might just be giving them flack for no reason. But yeah. Okay, we gotta go get some ATF because I did get the wrong power steering fluid. This pump runs off of ATF, so I need to go and get some ATF in order to actually run this thing. I'm gonna get more than enough too so we can actually flush out whatever fluid's left in the rack. And I'll come right back to you guys and we'll be flushing out our power steering system. Okay, well, I didn't realize I had already put that much in there. Probably what I said. Yeah, nasty. Look at that. All the way to the other side. Alright, that looks pretty clean, man. Let's crank it all the way over. Alrighty, let's go ahead and clean this thing off now. Since we are sufficiently flushed. We got no leaks under, by the way. Sufficiently flushed. Go ahead and just clean all the shit off here that I got on there. And hook it up and bleed the power steering. So go ahead and spray this guy down real quick. That's not clean now. It's not going to be clean. Here we go. Alright, I think that's good. Let's go ahead and fill this thing up. There you go. Kind of just sucked all that down. Nothing's leaking under, which is great. Nothing leaking here, which is even better. Oh, look at that. Uh-oh. That looked like it was a leak. Oh, it's like spraying out of there. Holy shit. That's crazy. Alright, so we do actually have a leak. Oh my god. It's like spraying out of behind here, out of the pressure fitting. The crazy part is it's like, it's not messing with the hose itself. Which, I mean, if it has a much lower pressure right now, it's probably the reason why. I don't know if I ever actually tighten these things all the way down. So, I'm gonna hop under there real quick, tighten those down. I also need to get some oil mats over here. I was thinking about putting the oil pan, like the drain pan, under there, but I was being optimistic. I was like, yeah, there's not gonna be any leaks. Looks like I should have just been prepared. So we're gonna try this one first, which I doubt is gonna work. Oh, it works. Look at that. Ha!
Those are finger tight. Actually finger tight, which is crazy. All right, now they are both actually tight. Let's see which one fails next.
I'm waiting for a fucking spectacular explosion. That is an atrocious sound that makes. Oh Lord. I wonder if it's because it's like running dry or something. We'll see.
Moments later.
Mission successful. Oh, it's been so long. And it's done. This is holding up perfect, so is that. Great. I just need to finish cleaning up, cap this off, and we'll be good. So I had actually put like a little cut me thing on here. I thought it was for this, but it was actually for this whole little tab here. I need to cut that off. All right, protected. Yeah, it's touching the ball. Yeah, it's whatever. That's fine. I have a feeling it's gonna make this whole thing vibrate. Let's see. Oh, man, that's fine. That's fine. I thought it was gonna be like, man, that's fine. All right, let's get this fender mounted up. Alright, so that is our fender reinstalled, our power steering pump reinstalled. The only bolts that are missing, or the only hardware that's missing on this, is the lower hardware, and that's because right now, up on the jack stands, I didn't realize the jack stand is actually right next to where I bolt this in. So, in order for me to get that last one in, I do have to drop the car. So, with that out of the way, now, all we gotta do is, I do have to tidy some stuff up with the exhaust real quick, and then we can drop the car, and we can take it on a test drive.
Okay. Stick this down in there. There we go. There, that can sit just like that.
Yep.
Top that off.
Alright, so now the Z is back on. So now the Z is back on the ground. All the body panels are back on the car. We just have to mess with the tune a little bit and we can take it on a test drive. The reason why we gotta mess with the tune is because right now, whenever I go to start it, it does this. starts fine. But whenever it's warm, that's when we start having issues. Also, we might have a new pet for the shop. I don't know. I found this guy hiding under my jack.
You may or may not be able to see him in there. It's probably pretty dark. So I found this guy hiding under my jack. He's been chilling in this corner, so I've been sitting here and holding him like this.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know how to take care of a snake. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn Miso around. That way I can let it get up to temp, and then we can finish the tune so that it actually runs properly when it's warm. But since I don't know what I'm doing with all this tuning stuff, I'm gonna do that, and I'll get back to you guys, and we'll be going out once the idle and everything is set correctly. By the way, we are idling at AFR of like 20, so we're really lean. It's very possible I broke something in the engine. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Okay, I didn't get everything off.
Okay, so right now when we start, it is still cold. We're sitting at about, I want to say it's about a 10 or 11 AFR. So the settings that we touched in this video here.
Flashback.
Second is the warm up enrichment. This is the percent more fuel that it puts in based off of the temperature of the coolant in the car.
End of flashback.
We need to go ahead and alter. That way it still starts when it's cold, but when it's not cold, it will actually stay started. Because right now it's just not getting the fuel that it actually needs. So you can see once this goes ahead and loads up and registers our AFR, it is going to show that we're running really rich right now. I want to say it was about 10 to 1. But whenever we're warm, we're sitting at about a 20 to 1 AFR, which is very lean. So I want to go in here into the fuel settings, and I'm going to have to figure out where these things are again, so I might have to actually reference that video. But I'm going to go ahead, putz around with this tool just a little bit, and then when I'm done, I will come back to you guys, and we should have a perfect idling it around. I want to go 12 to 1 is where I want to be. I don't want to be quite as lean as stoichiometric, but I do want to be kind of lean, only because I don't want to run into any issues while I'm out there driving. So yeah, I'll get to it and I'll get right back to you guys. So it's been about 20-ish minutes now. I've been messing with this. I changed some of the settings. I think I got our cells, because these are our idle cells here. It wants to hang out in or around this point. I might adjust the idle screw, because right now we're idling at like 12,000, or not 12,000. we're idling at 1,200 RPM. I do want to get that idle just a little bit down, and it should be idling in and around here. Right now you can see we're sitting close to stoic. I do want to get that down just a little bit more, so I might give it a little more fuel, but that is going to want to make it jump up a little bit further, so I might have to drop this cell just a little down. I am futzing with it, but right now, as you can see, if we go ahead and we take a look here, we have our AFR, oil pressure, and RPM. So if we go ahead and rev it up, you'll be able to see here, this is where stoic is. Right now we're sitting at about 15, which is still really lean. But if I go ahead and rev it, you'll watch this needle drop down, which is exactly what we want. So we're sitting really pretty, really nice. On acceleration, whenever we do our turbo tune, however, we're definitely going to want to make this really rich up here whenever we're accelerating, because if you watch this needle, it's going to jump over here and go really lean before it starts to richen out. You can see it jumps up to like 18, 19. It's actually easier to see on the gauge. It jumps up to like 22, which is definitely a little lean. And if we're running a turbo on here, we can absolutely blow the engine. But since we're running naturally aspirated right now, that's really not going to be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead, adjust this engine speed just a little bit, or adjust our idle speed just a little bit, tweak this just a little more, and then we'll go on our test drive. It's been so long. I've been waiting for this to happen. I'm so happy. We're almost there. We're almost at the finish line. Let's get to it. All right, I think we're good for a test run. Go ahead and turn this off. I'm gonna get the laptop unhooked, and we're gonna go ahead and take this on the road. Why isn't the power steering pump turning on? For some reason. Why aren't you getting power? Okay, that's fixed, that's on. Let's see, everything turns on. Make sure we got both sets of keys, yes we do. Don't have seatbelt. All right, did I close the hood? I did close the hood, okay. Cool. Don't tell me this blew that fuse. There that goes. That should turn on. It's like every time I close this hood, it doesn't want to start. I feel like it's just really not good IATs. Un momento. Yeah. All right, so power steering on its lowest setting, it's actually not that weak. It doesn't take a lot. Like I say, it probably takes about 3 or 4 pounds. Like you can see it like kind of jumping back if you look up here, or actually you can see it like that. You can see it like kind of jump back. I think that's just the power steering thing itself. All right, now we're going to turn it all the way up. It's definitely lighter, but I don't know if I would consider it to be much lighter. Honestly, I would just leave it on the low setting and then call it there. Yeah, it's fine here. All right, let's get it on the road. See how it feels. I really want to know why my wideband O2 is not working right now. We're gonna kill the car. Let me give this a second to reload. not a good sound. All right, I turned the power steering off just so I can get the car started. Shit! No, don't tell me I just killed the battery. Hold on, we're getting this bitch started. Battery's dead. My tender doesn't work either right now, so I'm kind of screwed. I've started this car so many times and let it run so many times, like on the battery, while I've been doing this power steering thing, and I've killed the battery in the process, and I don't have my jump starter because it's at the house. Because I do not have power. Because that storm the other day knocked out all the power everywhere. Except for the garage, somehow. Okay, let me see if I can hook the Sonata up to this somehow. If my leads are long enough. I don't think they are, but we'll see. Alright, so I got the Sonata behind me. We're hooked up. Let's go ahead and try and get this thing started real quick. Come on, you piece of it. Started right up. I think the battery's just fucking around. Hey, that turned on. Look at that. I think this needs more than however many amps it says. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect everything here. And we're gonna take this on a test drive. All right, we got our AFR. We got everything set up here on the computer. Let's go ahead. Don't have a seatbelt. Keep forgetting that. And let's get this test drive underway. Yeah, it's definitely a little tough. On its low setting, let's turn it up just a little bit. That's good. And of course my O2 sensor stopped working all of a sudden. Power steering feels great. It is kind of holding it in one spot, which it isn't great. We're going to make a couple laps. Feels great though. Feels actually really good. Car's still very torquey. Alrighty. Uh-oh. I just lost power steering. That's not good. Did I? Nope, it's still on. I'm not dripping anything. So I don't know why I lost power steering. There it goes. All right, let's get this car parked. Why did the car just shut off? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. This is not good. Oh god, it just started raining too. Why would you turn off? come on, dude. Why did my key stop working all of a sudden? There you go. Whew. Did I run out of gas? Let's get this thing started. Come on. Fuck. Come on, come on, come on, come on. God damn it. Okay. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm pretty sure the power steering pump's pulling way too many amps for our alternator. 140 amps might not be enough. Because again, I don't have power steering. Okay.
So I'm like real dumb, like big dumb, big dumb, big dumb stupid. Do you remember this? Woo! Nope, starting a fire. Yeah, so this entire time I've been running straight off the battery, so that's why it died. The alternator's not actually charging anything, so it might actually work and supply all the amperage and stuff that we need for the car. So it's like it's 200 amp alternator is like the max I should need. With other things that I'm running in the car, I'm going to need more in the future. But for what I'm doing right now, should be fine. So we're going to be pulling out all of the interior here, and we're going to get into the wiring. Because I'm getting to the point where I'm doing other shit and I'm forgetting everything else that I've done and not finishing those things. So I've ordered all the wiring and everything that we need to be able to complete and relocate the battery. So the next video is going to be that. We're going to be pulling out the interior, doing that wiring, and then maybe we'll do some interior stuff. I actually don't know about that next part, but we'll be getting to that. I do want to say I'm officially full-time, if not at least temporarily, for the next few months. So we're going to be getting back on our grind. I'm going to have a whole bunch of videos lined up because I have nothing else to do. So I'm going to be here in the garage pretty much every single day. I'm actually happy about this. I know I sound sarcastic, but I'm actually happy. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button down below. I did forget to say, power steering, awesome when it actually works and you're not running straight off the battery. It's great, perfect, amazing. Wow, chef's kiss. That hang tight thing, albeit expensive, absolutely perfect for a plug and play option. I do say that's not a fast blink, that is a slow blink. You might want to change your criteria or your instructions just a little bit because that's really confusing. Unless this controller thing for this particular power steering pump just does not connect at all if the CAN wires are backwards. If so, I apologize. That's probably not a feature for the Mazda ones. It's probably for the other two ones that it supports, as well as whatever other ones are going to include in the future. But all that aside, I want to thank you guys again for watching. If you liked the video, please go ahead and hit that like button down below. If you haven't already, and you have made it through this very, very concerningly long video, please do hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and click all so you get notified whenever I do drop these videos, which I'm planning on doing on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. If you want to support me a little bit more, go ahead and head over to buymeacoffee.com/FatalRPM, where you can just help out that a little bit more. But as always, I want to thank you guys again for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.